Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. So, we're going to look at today two systems of government that really originated with the Greeks: tyranny and democracy. We're using this activity today as sort of an attempt to build our prior knowledge in preparation for our document based question, our DBQ, for unit number 2. All right. So by the time we're done with this activity, we should have a better understanding of how to answer the questions. Why do we have the government that we do? How do you form a government? So I'd like you to understand that the Constitution created a republican form of government based on the consent of the governed, so based on the consent of the people, that was strong enough to hold the states and the people together without letting any one person, group, branch, or level of government gain too much control. So, obviously, at the end of the American Revolution, where the newly formed United States had just won its independence from Britain, one of their arguments was that the king was a tyrant. He had too much control. And so, in thinking about how they wanted to form their own government, they wanted to make sure that they created a system that would avoid this situation ever happening again in the future. They didn't want to live under a tyrant again, and they really wanted the people to have a say in how government was being run. Now, you also have to remember that at this time, when they say they wanted the people, they really meant white men. More importantly, white men who had money. Okay, so it didn't mean that if you didn't have money, you couldn't vote, but definitely if you weren't a woman, or if you were a person of color, if you were a woman or a person of color, or both, the political process wasn't really for you until much later. Okay. So with this activity today, you're going to compare and contrast two systems of government: tyranny, which is what the founders of the Constitution felt they were breaking away from, and democracy, the kind of government they were hoping to form. All right. So with this activity today, what you're going to be doing is you are going to be completing a slide deck. In the first part of the slide deck, we have a couple of videos to give you a highlight of what tyranny and democracy are. So you're going to watch these two videos, and then in the response box down below, just really briefly list a couple of the things that you notice to be the key differences between tyranny and democracy, just based on these two short videos. Okay. And then the next slide is an explanation of tyranny, while the next slide is an explanation of democracy. And then you'll be using those two reading passages to compare and contrast those two forms of government. And as you can see, we're not going to be doing anything with monarchy or oligarchy, just tyranny and democracy. Okay, so let's take a look at the assignment itself. Today in the year 2020, this activity is due tomorrow, and it's worth 10 points. If this is another school year, it might be something a little different. So pay attention to the due date and the point total. So I'm going to go ahead and open the assignment, and then I'm going to open my document. Okay. Now, the videos you can't watch on the slide deck itself. So what you'll have to do is, I'm going to minimize my window. So I'm clicking and dragging the corner of my window to be about halfway. And then I'm going to open this. So if I click play, it's going to tell me that I can't watch it. So I'm going to click on the link and then move it over to the side. Okay. So I'm going to watch this video. And then after I watch this video, I'm going to do the same thing to democracy. I can't watch it, so I'm just going to put it over to the side. And then after I watch the two, and you can see they're very short videos, only a couple of minutes, I'm going to list my ideas about how I feel like they are different, some of the key differences between these two forms of government. And this is just a way to give you some prior knowledge before you start reading. Okay. So now once I'm done, and at this point, what I suggest that you do is you pause this tutorial and complete this task. So at this point, I would pause the tutorial, watch your tyranny video and your democracy video, and take your notes. Okay, so we're back together again, and you should have completed this bottom section here where you're listing some of the key differences between tyranny and democracy. Obviously, their main similarity is their forms of government, but you really want to look at their differences. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and close these two windows because I don't need them anymore, and I'm going to widen this one. Okay, now if you're watching this tutorial, you may have the tutorial open in another window, and that would be helpful to you for sure. Okay, so now with this reading, you'll see that, and we've done this in the past, we have some highlighting boxes on the left and the right side. Obviously for tyranny, you'll use these, and if you need to use some of the ones that are under democracy, that's fine, because we're just talking about tyranny on this page. And then the next page, same thing for democracy. So what you're going to be doing is using these highlighted boxes, these highlighting boxes, to identify where you're finding the answers to these questions. And these questions are the same questions that are on the final slide, the chart where you will compare and contrast them. Okay, so before I skip ahead, I'm going to go back to the reading. You can see in the top right corner on tyranny and the top left corner on democracy. And whatever this is, I'll deal with that in a second. But by the time you watch this, you should be able to play the audio. So the audio for here and the audio for here, right corner for tyranny and left corner for democracy. So if you want to listen and follow along while I read the document to you, you can play the audio. Okay. As you are reading, be thinking about the questions that you're asking yourself on this final slide. So I'm going to zoom in a bit here so I can look at the questions. So the questions that we're asking ourselves while we're reading is, how does the word originate? So the text will tell you where the word comes from, both Greek and English. Okay. How is this government practiced? So how does this government look? How is it run? The people who are in charge, how do they behave under these two different kinds of government? Okay. What is known about this government in Greece? And then finally, two more. What do you know about it today? And find an image to show this government. So in these two sections here, you'll be finding an image and putting it there. One to show that you understand what tyranny is, and one to show that you understand what democracy is. Okay. So the highlighting squares on the side, and this is something we're going to be doing with our DBQs, so I want you to become used to it. They go along with the question that you are being asked on the final slide. So the red boxes are for, how does this word originate? The yellow boxes are for, how is this government practiced? The green boxes are for, what is known about this government in Greece? And the blue boxes are for, what do you know about it today? Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and allow you to pause this video and either read the text to yourself or play the audio and follow along. And again, I'm going to fix the access situation that seems to be happening. Okay, so we're going to read, and then I'll walk you through one of these questions just to give you an idea of how to answer each question. Okay. All right, so at this point, you should have at least read through or listened to the document about tyranny. Okay, so our first question is, how does the word originate? So it says in the first paragraph here, the word tyranny comes directly from the English word tyrannos. In English, tyrannos is translated to mean illegitimate ruler. So I'm going to go ahead and move my highlighting box. Now I can change the size of this box. Okay. And then I don't want to include the word everything, so I'm going to bring in another box here. Okay. And there is my answer for the first question. So I'm going to go back to the question down on slide number 5. I'm going to try to remember this. The word tyranny comes directly from the Greek word tyrannos. The word tyranny comes directly from the word tyrannos, from the Greek word tyrannos. In English, tyrannos is translated to mean illegitimate ruler. The Greek word tyrannos, and I have quotes here, so I'm going to use them. In English, tyrannos is translated to mean illegitimate ruler. Tyrannos is translated to mean illegitimate ruler. Okay. So I have quotes there. Oops. Okay, so my first one is done. All right, so I've shown where I found the answer in the text, and then I've copied that answer directly in the box. Okay, so that is your task for today. As you are reading, you're going to go ahead and answer the questions here using these text boxes, highlighting boxes, to show where you've found the answer, and then answering each question in the box using what you found in the text. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and keep working on this. And then when I'm done, I'm going to go back to the assignment itself and I'm going to submit. So making sure I submit through Canvas, and this activity is finished for today. Okay, so I'm going to be available if you have any questions. Right now, my task as your instructor is to fix the audio so that by the time you are watching this and completing this activity, the audio should be available to you to listen to.